Me, 25 male, with my wife, 23 female. She informs me at sister's wedding she had slept with best man. The time frame together as a couple for 2 years before that. So we've been together for about 5 years. 2 weekends ago her ing party. As you would expect, she spent the 2 weeks prior to the wedding helping her sister get everything ready owing to happen. Emily took that Wednesday through Friday off of work to help her sister, and in fact stayed with her. I certainly know her sister, but I barely know the guy who is now my brother-in-law. In fact, I've only met him a few hours before the ceremony, hoping to steal just a few minutes to see Emily. I didn't want to intrude on the day Sai sees me outside of her parents' house and sends her brother out to tell me that she'll come out and see me at the CT and sits in the seat next to me and gives me a kiss, but instead of acting happy to see me, she tells me that she informs me that at the reception, if I still want to go, I might hear some things about the best man in her. And stunned. She said that about 4 years ago she had a fling with him and that it didn't mean anything. But she to know in advance so that if I heard something I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I just kinda sat there. This was not aided knowing it and that it certainly wasn't a big deal now. She went back in the house, and I went to eat lunch and as I'm eating and reading my phone, it dawns on me that she said she had a fling with him 4 years ago. And we think that she just told me the wrong time, but the more I thought about it, the more I started to remember about it was really sketchy about her behavior, wasn't available when she normally was, and went on 2 weekend camping. It'll knotted up over this, but I know I have a long day ahead of me. I go to the wedding and sit there watching after the wedding. They have a line that you walk by and congratulate the bride and groom, and the wedding party is I don't know him at all. But the best man was there. And I just went down the line and acted like it was no big deal. Because of photos. Emily finally gets there and sits with me. I decided not to say anything, as I didn't want to distract me that each of the groomsmen and bridesmaids are going to dance. And that she is going to be dancing with I asked why when she was not his partner for the party. And she said that the maid of honor and her partner were more than perturbed. But I try and not let it show. Thankfully, I was smart enough not to drink because I freely talks to everyone around her, and then the dance comes and he comes over and extends his arm and she gets up. With him in tow, and they are joking like the best of friends. She decides that it would be a good idea to introduce greeting to him was probably less than cordial. But it did not deter him from sitting and talking with her for a few minutes. The more they sat and talked and Remine got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back he was gone. She decided to tell me that she thought I was told her that this wasn't the time or place to talk about it, but rest assured, we would talk later. Emily sat there and as she got back she was telling her sister that we were leaving because I had ruined her day. But she didn't want me. I told her that I was perfectly capable of not being a bother to her or her sister for the rest of the day, and that I did just stay. She went and changed clothes and then came back all in a huff. Now understand, I have not said a word Israel, so that is what she was basing this off of. She was adamant about not staying, and so I said that if she really would be happy to stay, or if she liked, since I came in my own car, I would leave so she could stay. She at first said that we should stay, but then said if I couldn't act any better, I should leave. I asked how I was acting, Elver back gorilla wanting to fight. I didn't know whether to laugh in her face or be offended. I went back in and sat down brother for a while, but then ultimately ended up back at our table talking with her grandma. We left at the same living room waiting on her when she came in and didn't beat around the bush. I simply asked her to retell me this DOE. After sitting and looking at her for a time, I just said, "Are you sure about the time me?" And she said she was. Then his fling was well over a year into our being together. What happened next I can't really put into words. Instead of I asked her to explain. And she tells me that they worked together, and that it was just a physical thing. She felt like any feelings for him, and never had any real intentions of leaving me. She was just having some fun for a few weeks, and she said that it was probably a mistake on her part to tell me now, but she didn't want me to get blindsided. I did not large argument, and it ended when she told me I was being a child about all of this. That we were married, and this age do with him or that time. Well, two things. One, I adamantly disagree that this has no bearing on us. She cheat tie about it. Two, I hate being told I am childish when I get upset over something. It pisses me off to no end because I told her I needed time to think, and she told me there was nothing to think about. We loved each other, and this did over it. She has been trying the past few days to get me to talk to her, but I admit that for whatever reason I'm not. This is stupid. It happened a few years ago, and we are married now, and there haven't been any problems at all. It hurts like a mother fet. And what makes it worse is that instead of trying to understand how I feel, she is trying to I don't know what to do. I'm sorry for the length. I probably should have cut out some of the wedding stuff, but it all from my first post that I really did not spell out very well. It doesn't have any real bearing on anything, but for some our maid of honor. Not my wife, was married to the groomsman who my wife Emily walked down the aisle with. There I do know for a fact that this part was legit. However, it doesn't mean she didn't try and offer to let them dance or leer that part up a little. I'm here because I have gotten, honest to God, over 40 requests for an update since last week. Thank you for your company ache about how I stood tall and kicked her to the curb. But sadly, that is just not what happened. To be blunt, I'm in limb make it harder for me to decide. Last week I was mostly angry. Then as the weekend progressed I became mostly I'm being walked on and I'm a sucker. But it's just very hard for me to do that because I still love her. And this is ripping me apart. Here's what has happened of any consequence. Emily finally came to the realization that I might want out of the marriage. This then brought on a near nervous breakdown from her. And manipulate me like that, and believe me, I was taking those words to heart when I thought she was having croco-G or faking. She was having a legitimate panic attack. This led to an ER visit, and that led to an overnight stay in the Hope with her doctor for later next week. This brought her family into it, and that in turn led to long conversations all the way around. When we got home with a house full of people, and she said she wanted to be with her mom for a while. That was fine with me, as I had no was going to go finish up something at work and would be home later. 2 hours after I get there I get a text from to talk with her. So I finish up what I was doing and head home. I am greeted on my own front porch by her dad, who asks if he can talk to me for a minute. My anger level was already a shit sack of lies on me with her dad. I mean, it's not like he and I are best friends or anything, but I've never had a BA out being the bastard who broke his baby's heart. We sit on our deck chairs and he floored me with his opening essay that Emily told them what had happened. And he wanted to apologize to me because he felt like he did a really shitty. He said that this mindset she had was really a creation of her mother's, and while he loved both of them, he said the RLS that whatever happens before marriage doesn't count was a horrible idea and value system to instill in them. He did, but he just wanted me to be aware that what she was saying and how she was acting was simply because she said that they, mom and dad, had romanticized marriage to the point that she wasn't understanding real life. Basika his is not what I was expecting at all. We shook hands, and he said that no matter what I decided, he still thought very highly of me, which honestly Maid was curled up in a ball on her mom's lap. And you could tell she had been crying the entire time I'd been gone. Her that she loved me, and was praying that we could work this out. Emily was laid out on the couch at this point. Her mom his is where I'm going to piss off everybody and just tell you that I couldn't take it. I went to her, and we hugged for a long time, with her telling me over and over how sorry she was. I know it was the tea before this incident occurred. I loved her with all of my heart and would have done anything to not see her in pain. Look, it's very possible that she was putting on an Oscar-worthy acting job, but I don't honestly think so. She really old have done in that moment. I'd like to hear your thoughts. After a while, when she calmed down, I asked her WAD to get everything out in the open so I didn't feel like I was being lied to or manipulated. So she wanted me to ask her questions, and I wish I had written down a list. But I came up with a few off the top of ons I asked I probably shouldn't have because now the mental image is stuck in there, but honestly was there any the very least approximate dates. I didn't tell her about the engagement concern I had because I didn't want her to. Fortunately, this happened a little earlier in our relationship than she initially told me. So we were not engaged. I became physically ill when I thought about that when someone said it in my last post. Second, I asked how many times. She went overboard with this because instead of just telling me how many different, she wasn't doing it to be mean. She honestly thought that was what I wanted to know. This part of the conversation it wasn't that often, and in fact there were really only 3 different days it happened on, but there were severe why did she do it. Okay, again, I'm not the most manly of men, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but I couldn't get this I asked why wasn't I good enough? Why him? Why didn't she just leave me? It was her turn to hold me because, at this to watch them laugh with each other, her now telling me how many times they did it and where they did it. She was too upset. And honestly, nothing she was going to say was going to make a bit of difference anyway. But after but honestly, her response to me when I found out was just as bad, if not worse. She agreed with me, and apologized. She said that she honestly believed that it wouldn't matter to me now because we were married. When she said this, but she jumped in and said that after talking with her parents, she now sees that this was very wrong of her, and that we have shared since being married should count for something. I then replied that I kind of felt like that happy part, and almost another visit. But between Adam
Hey
and
everyone,
having
today
to
I'm
breathe
sharing
into
a story
paper
that's
sack,
been tearing
we
me
got her
apart for
calm,
months.
feeling like emotionally
Imagine
we were
this,
both tired.
you're in a solid 3 best friend,
Come Sunday,
practically
we were
your
talking
brother,
again.
has been by your
By
side
this
for
time,
20
I
years.
wasn't as sympathetic.
Then, in the
I
blink
thought
of an
her
eye,
introducing
everything
him
you
to me
do,
was shitty.
33 male and
Me
wife,
having to
26
watch her
female,
dance with him was
discarded me to
extra
be
shitty.
together.
And the
So I thought
at
I'd share
elite
my
level
story
of
here.
shitty.
I was
I then
2.5
demanded
years
to know
into
why she thought I
RT
would
towards
find out,
the end.
and how many of the
She would
things he
initiate
thought
breaks,
he
we'd
and his
break up,
best friend in
get
the
back
world
together,
also knew.
and just have
Did I
constant
mention that
fights
F is now my
during phone calls and hangouts.
which then led to her
He was with me every step of the way, convinced me
I
to
asked
break up
how
with my
often she
wife, and
sees
once
this
I
guy,
did,
and she
he could
said that
not
the
be
wedding is the first
again
time
because
she has
my
seen
wife
him
had
in
been
3
cheating with him
years.
the entire time.
Lead up to the
Now
wedding.
that they have
She
moved
got
in
all
together,
pissy
I
about it,
just
acting
feel
like
Lee
she
thought he
wouldn't
would
F
ever
anyone
do this
because
to
she
me.
was married. And
My
A,
wife
and I
of
felt like she was
2.5
living
years
on
crushed
Married
me
Planet
too,
or some
but
such
I have
shit.
been friends with
And
this
the
guy
world,
since
there is a
my
different
world
place
upside
than for
down.
the try to be
How can
civil
I be
about
such a
things.
terrible judge of
She
character?
finally asked me what she could do to
Any
help me
info
get
that may
past all of
elicit
this.
questions on
Which
how
may
I
not
it
so,
was
but it was
because
the first
either
time she
friends or
offered to help
family
me,
filled
really,
me in
so it
after
was at least a
D-Day.
nice gesture.
My best friend is
I
someone
told her
who
I
I have
wasn't
known
sure
since
what
high or
and
that,
that I
basically
might never
brothers
get
from
over
another
this.
mother.
She said
You
that
know
she
the
wanted
whole
to help
spiel.
because she
We
didn't want
kept
to see
zero
me in
secrets
pain,
and were an
and D
open
on who
B
she is
etc.
now.
you name it.
She would do
He knew
anything
everything
I wanted
about
to
me,
work
and
this
I
out.
knew
She
everything
also
about
wanted to
him.
be sure that I
Even
knew
though
that
he
S
may be
cheated
my
on her
best
vows.
FRS
I
dating life has been a
sarcastically thanked
complete
her, which I
disaster.
admit wasn't the most
He has
mature
had
thing
4
to do.
exes,
I
2
then
of which
asked for
cheated
a
on him.
moratorium
One
from
was
further
sleeping with
talks
a
till at
year.
least Wednesday.
He cheated on his 3rd
I have 2
girlfriend and dumped
projects I
her to
have
be
to
with
get
his
done
4th.
and HT to do.
He also
I
hits
shift
up
between
prostitutes
periods of red-hot
regularly.
anger,
His
where I wanna
MO, his
kick her
mom
out,
just
and
sends
then
him money.
periods of deep emotional
Meanwhile, I was a
QER.
virgin and
Yes,
had
I know
never
this is
had
not
any
what anyone
contact with
wanted to
any
hear.
women
I
until
know.
this
I'm
January
not proud to
13th,
tell it,
2019.
but it is what it is at the
Our
moment.
connection was instant, and we hit it
I have
off
gotten
right from
over
the start.
400 private
Our
messages,
first date was
and I just
magical.
cannot respond
Phil
to
made
all
me
of them,
feel like
or
I
any
had
of
known
teach.
her
I wanna
forever.
thank all of you who
From
have
that
written
first
to me.
date to the end of
And to those of
2020,
you who
things
this
were
struck a
generally
chord
going
with,
well.
all I can say is that
Inez,
this on
and
my
creating a
worst enemy.
treasure trove of
I
memories.
do want to say
We
one
also
thing,
spent
though,
a
as
lot
the
of time
vast
with my best
majority of the
friend
people
Mike and his
contacting me
girlfriend
via
Emily,
P or
whom he
fear
had
of
been with
being
for around
harassed.
4. It was a
I
road
have
trip to
honestly
the
taken both points of
mountains
view
or a
into
quiet
consideration,
evening playing
and there
board
has been
games.
some grary
The 4 of
T's
us
are in the
became
right
an
place.
inseparable
I
G-endemic
just
hit.
wish
It
that if
shook up
people
everyone's
disagreed with each
lives.
other, they wouldn't
Emily
feel the
broke
need
up
to
with Mike
demonize
and moved
okay
back to
for the
China, leaving
hundreds
him
of you that have been
heartbroken
clamoring
the
for an
time.
update. Here it is.
Mike needed
As you
support,
know, I
and
asked
we
to
were
just
there for
drop
him.
it, get
We would
done.
play video games
Emily
for
kept her
hours,
word about
watch
it, but I could
movies
tell she was very
maintain
emotional
some
and
semblance of
honestly nervous.
normalcy.
She is
When the
taking
restaurant
as it
started
is.
opening
I
up,
can
we
still
would
see
go
how
out to
anxious
eat,
she had
and
been.
sometimes Mike would
I
also
wasn't
take my wife
intentionally
out.
trying to
Lose
punish
by
her.
to the
In
places
fact,
he
quite
would
the
go to
opposite,
eat.
but she
I
told me
thought
last
nothing
night
of
that
it,
not
and
holding
their
her
outings
or
became
showing
more
any
and
real
more
affection
frequent.
towards her was almost
And
torture
it
to her.
because he was my best
Well,
friend of
last
20
night
years.
finally arrived.
And she would always send me
And we
pictures
had
of
what
the
my
food
dad
and tell
always
me
called
that
a come
S out
to
my
Jesus
wife's
meeting.
family to renovate
I
a
got
new
home
house they
from
just
work
got.
up or anything.
It was
We
a big
started
project,
talking around
and they
6,
needed
and
all the help
finally
they
ended
could
around
during this
2-ish.
time. I
In
had
that
already
time,
returned to work for 2
we laid
days a
out
week.
a lot of
The remainder of the
willing to
5
do to
days,
move
I would
forward.
go help felt
Long
good
story
about
short,
contributing to
starting
something
today,
important for
I
her
am living
family.
with my brother for the
By
next
the end of
few,
March,
not
I had
sue,
broken
and
my
making an
wrist toe
effort to
surgery,
communicate
which left me
openly with her, so she
incapacitated
does
for
not feel
weeks.
abandoned or
My wife was
neglected.
supportive at first,
If you're
helping
one
me
in a
with my
nutshell,
recovery,
I know
but
this
her
is not
came
going
up
to
on
make
April
several of you very
29th.
happy, but here
April
is where I am
29th.
going with this.
I had planned a
I want
trip
to
for
save
her
my
that involved the
MIE.
29th
I
and
know she never
30th.
intended to
We
lie
went
once
to a
we were
beautiful
married.
Annie. On
But
the
when I sat
30th, as
down
we
and
were
thought
coming
about
back
this,
home,
one
Mike
question
wanted to give
is,
her a birthday
each and
cake as
every
well
time
and
I
waited for
answered
us to
no.
calm day,
So to
which she
me,
was
she took
ecstatic
away
over.
my ability
It was
to
a
choose
thoughtful
whether or
gift,
not I wanted to
something
post
that
something
showed
that
he
wasn't
knew her
quite
well
true.
and cared about H.
However,
Pushed
the
it
truth
aside,
is,
telling
we still
myself that it
built
was just a
something.
friendly
Sometimes
gesture.
foundations can
May,
be repaired,
week 1.
and sometimes you have to
A week
tear them
later,
down
she
to
calls
build
me up
new
to Brea.
ones.
I didn't make
This
enough
is
money.
capace.
She said that I was
So
lazy
that we
and had
can
to find a
start over.
second job,
Like I said in
and
the
that I
very
didn't
first
have the
post,
luxury
our
because he's
marriage
rich.
until this point
Her
had
words
been
cut
what I would
deep,
consider
leaving me feeling
There were some
worthless and
very troubling
inadequate.
things that
I was
occurred
also
due to
not the
this.
first one to wish her
Here's
a
a brief
happy bear
synopsis
that
of
had
our
wished her a
talk.
happy
I
birthday
laid out
earlier than
cheating,
me,
yes,
and
I
she
still
replied
consider
with,
it cheating,
"You don't
which he
need
has
to
now
know.
come to realize
I
that
have
this
come
is
to
the way it
read."
is. And
A
is
couple
going
of
to be
weeks after
cons.
the
I was
breakup,
equally
I
upset
called
by
up
her
Mike
lack
to
of
confide in him that I
consideration
had
for my
broken up
feelings
with
on
her.
this.
Before
I
he
told
had
her that
no
I
idea
resented
that I
being
was
told I
suffering
was
and going
being
through
I
this
had
pain.
every right to be upset
Apparently, he had already
Her
invited her
response
out
was
for
to
dinner that she
apologize
didn't
and
mention
tell me she
anything
was in the
about me
wrong,
when they were
and that
together.
while S vinced
He
herself
told me
that
to never
because we were
hesitate to
married,
reach
I
out
was
and
wrong
that he
to
was
be
already
upset
there
about
for
something
me,
that
which I
happened
took up and
beforehand.
either hung out me
Why
call.
disrespected by her
Mike's
associating with
support
this
was
guy
a
right in
lifeline
front of
for me
and
during
that I
those
felt
dark days,
humiliated having to
even
shake
though I
his
couldn't
hand in
shake
her
off
mind
the
at the
feeling
time
that
she
found
felt like she was
myself
trying to
relying
show me
more and
that.
more on Mike's seeks companionship. He was always there, always ready to listen, and his doubt about his intentions and the nature of his relationship with my wife never truly left my mind. She calls me up OOT. Despite everything that had happened, I found myself agreeing to get back together. For the next few weeks, every thought ends about our future, discussing how we could save money to move in together next year. We even planned a 3 when I mentioned our plans to Mark. He pulled me aside for a serious talk. You need to reconsider moving in with HK your wrist.
but that
that's a huge red flag.
Okay.
She put you through hell all this time. Do you really think she's going to change?
Credit here.
Someone like that.
She was brutally
His words
honest
hit me
about this,
hard.
and at least she was.
They were logical,
so we
sensible,
and
I couldn't ignore them.
Event.
I nodded in agreement, realizing the T-days passed. I started attending therapy sessions for my wrist post-surgery. There I met a few attractive women and a relationship. The more doubts crept in. The initial breakup, along with our past issues, made me question everything. Seeing things with her. Maybe, just maybe, I could ask out one of these women from therapy. Mark's response took me ER in the dark. Ask out the women from therapy, and if things work out with them, you can make the transition. Your wife can be A or days, tormented by the idea of deceiving her, and the potential emotional devastation it would cause. Ultimately, her time was something I couldn't bear. I knew I would hate myself forever if I did. June week 3, determined to make device. I had multiple tabs open with articles titled, When to Break Up. How do you know if she's worth sticking? Aru saw the open tabs on my laptop. Her face changed, and she began questioning me. Our conversation quickly escalated into a heated argument. She admitted that someone else had asked her out during our relationship, but she had turned him down, telling him she wasn't going on the trip with us anymore. I took a deep breath and explained to her that while I had the 3 years we had spent together and how much I cared for her, I assured her that I was in this for the long haul. After a long and emotional conversation, we managed to make up. We decided to go on that trip, hoping it would. He had just moved into a new apartment. A sleek and modern space that he was eager to turn into his ultimate bachelor in the perfect environment to jump back into the dating scene. Excited about his fresh start, he had invited me over flat-packed furniture from IKEA, including a couple of large high-definition televisions, a stylish table, and a new bed. Evening unpacking, sorting parts, and putting everything together. The process was tedious, but also somewhat therapeutic. We reminisced about old times and shared a few laughs as our ambition to get everything perfect was evident, especially as he was also making significant changes in his life. He ironing and cardio, and the results were impressive. He had shed a significant amount of weight, and his newfound he looked around the apartment, satisfied with the progress. He turned to me, gratitude in his eyes, and thanked them. Been there for me every step of the way through this darkest time of my life, and I would do the same for you. This is nothing. It was true. His support had been unwavering during my tumultuous times, and I wanted to be there somewhat cryptically that he never told her anything during the times they hung out. June 30th, that evening turned e-calls or texts. Earlier that day, he had picked up my call, and we chatted briefly about his apartment and our plans. Again, he didn't pick up. I sent a few texts, but there was no response. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Days worried and confused. It wasn't until much later that he revealed the reason behind his sudden disappearance. He had been having dinner with my calls. This revelation stung, as it marked the first time she had gone out with him without informing me. Acid time I saw or made contact with him was on our planned trip. He was the designated driver. As he had a spacious car G out, I would always sit up front with him while my wife sat in the back seat. However, this time she claimed, it was the entire time. Throughout the vacation, my best friend was unusually generous. He covered all the expenses, including our tickets, spending the entire trip by his side. They ran off together to play in the arcades. gamble at the casino and XP evening. One of my friends pulled me aside and confided that there had been some gossiping within the group. They whispering amongst themselves and asking whose girlfriend she was. The suspicion and rumors were humiliating, but I tripped. Despite my efforts, the 3-day trip was filled with tension and discomfort. My wife and I did not share any intimate moments, which only added to the growing sense of alienation and betrayal as the last one in the car with him. The atmosphere was awkward, but we made small talk. He casually mentioned THIN, which was why he knew all the best spots to eat and have fun. His familiarity with the place suddenly made Sen ask him why he had stopped picking up my calls.
I explained that
he claimed he had been busy setting up the internet and putting TH. However, the truth was far more unsettling. I later discovered that the trip we had just taken was originally planned to miss out. My reconciliation with her had inadvertently disrupted his plans. Revealing a layer of deceit I hadn't approaching, and a sense of dread loomed over me as I noticed a significant shift in my wife's behavior. In the week, LTS became sporadic, and at times she wouldn't respond at all.
And we both agreed that we would
This was completely out of character for her. The night the next day. As midnight approached, I waited eagerly, hoping for a warm, affectionate birthday wish. Instead, she mumbled a D, but she brushed me off. Something that had never happened before.
But I plan
eventually did have sex,
because the look on her face when she got the
our
divorce
last
papers
intimate
was something
moment
I
together.
never want to see again.
The actual day of my birthday
was
a
happy
disaster.
to see me that day.
She seemed
And then
entirely disconnected
and then
way through the
instant
day,
combination
claiming
of
she had work to
sadness and
complete.
terror.
Her
Very
departure
well.
left a gaping
Well enough, in
void,
fact,
and I
that I
couldn't
am
shake
moving
the
back
time
home
I
this
saw her in
weekend.
person.
My
The
brother
combination
has been
of the
great,
recent
but I am
vacation and
crammed
her
very
cold
night,
behavior made me feel
I won't
utterly
deny it.
miserable.
But mostly
By
I
the
am
following
going home
week,
because she has done
following my
everything I have
birthday, were
asked
filled
of her
with emptiness.
GH price, and I know she
We
knows how
engaged in
serious
random
this was.
texting and late-night
Also, in case I
FaceTime
didn't mention
calls.
this before,
Though I
I
decided
love
to
her.
stop texting her altogether.
She made a very
She
stupid,
didn't reach out to
selfish
me
mistake
either until 5
that was
p.m.
years
after
ago.
work.
And she had
When I
been
finally
almost the
called her, we're
perfect wife
breaking
up
up,
until
but the
that,
conversation
I will once
ended
again
on a
get
sour
many
note.
PMS telling
I was
me
fed up with her
that
attitude
I am a cuckold
and said some
and an
petty
embarrassment to all men,
and she replied
but
that
I
she had
don't
bought
live
a
here
card
equally
but
will
didn't
be
know what
nothing
to
to
write
update
because she
going
feared I
forward.
would leave her.
We are not
She
cured
had made
or
a wish
healed
in
by
front of
any
her.
sense of the
In a
imagination.
fit of anger,
but
I
we
told her I
understanding.
didn't care about her, and she hung up on me. Mid-August, me, informing me that her father would come over to drop off my belongings and collect hers. When her father worked things out with her and expressed his hope that we would reconcile. He encouraged me to keep in touch. August 28th, D-Day. From the vacation until this day, 6 weeks had passed, and 2 months if you included the last TN trying to reach out to him. But he never picked up my calls or responded to my texts. On this day while at work, O had called him that morning to share some shocking news. My wife had moved in with him, and they were now off but instead, our mutual friend immediately called to tell me the truth. I was absolutely devastated. That same night he called to confess everything. Mind you, I'm in a complete state of shock, so I'm answering incoherently and asking Edie realized it by now. I'm dating Sarah. It just happened. I had no choice. I was feeling suicidal if I didn't see her. You or speak to you. I'll always have your best interest at heart. She was terrible for you, but perfect for me. I asked H in her favorite color, and how he even knew when her birthday was. He said he just wanted to see her happy, and I would find out that he did months of research, snooping on her social media and stalking her Facebook feeds to know everything about her. Every detail that would make her smile, while I was completely in the dark. I asked him was because he saw that we were already having issues. She was mistreating me and being very disrespectful to take a chance on and shoot his shot, and that he was absolutely floored. She agreed to go out with him.
He painted teethly disregarding how it would affect me. I asked him why he never asked me to go along with him when they were going on one-on-one dinner dates. Driving, I didn't want to bother you, you were busy. I didn't consider those dates, I just wanted to see her because I would feel alive and happy. Don't worry, until you two broke up I never laid my hands on her, never touched her. I would right. You two have been cheating on me. His response, if that's the way you see it, then I'm sorry. I asked him if he'd throw me under the bus and pull this stunt again. He said absolutely, 10 she's my soulmate. And that he'd be shocked if he doesn't marry her. She's a terrible match. CE was chilling, as if he had no regrets about betraying our friendship. I asked why he would pursue her and get toge flags to him. His response was, I feel like you made many mistakes and caused these issues to spiral out of control. Is more exciting. He seemed to relish in the chaos that she brought into his life. Something I had tried so hard to you'll cheat on him in the future as well. And he said that's totally a possibility. It's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm willing to give my girlfriend a one-time pass. Al was baffling, as if he had already made peace with the idea of being hurt. I asked him why he would do this to me. Cheated on him multiple times, and he cheated on his third girlfriend and dumped her to be with his fourth. So I asked, do you do this to me? His response was, I didn't think it'd be that bad. Give it some time, you'll get over it. Weren't you? You're still young. There's plenty of fish out in the sea. We are the same age. His nonchalant attitude towards my pie to his happiness. I asked him how was the sex and he responded with, it's alright, you can find better out there. Hip to a mere physical comparison. I asked him how it didn't bother him, or if he thought of me when he's having sex. Think about that stuff. He has also had sex with hundreds of prostitutes. His detachment from any emotional knew existed. I told him that we never broke up and that we only got into an argument on July 30th. He tells me that he had no fight and she was all over him. He said that was when he knew that we were over. Then he added, this last the time. She's my live-in girlfriend now. During this time, a few days before this phone call, my mom, who is taking the medications because they were no longer working, and she was too weak to receive further treatment. I told my friend if he wanted to visit her one last time because I didn't know whether she'd be around after another. To him was, am I your best friend? He replies with, of course, it's not even close. You helped me out during my dark there for me during my darkest time. You were nowhere to be found, and now I find out instead, you were the perp. Phone call with him telling me that he's going to lay low for 12 months, and that he won't be hanging out with me. He tells me not to listen to what any of my peers and family say about cutting him off, and that he'll always be friends. Time of no contact. He was actually really worried about me and wanted to check up on me all this time, but he to talk to me. For our final words, he said to only contact him if it pertains to separating and closing any joint account. Late to that issue, do not reach out to him. Basically, if I want to contact Sarah at all, I have to go through him first. I've also come to realize my wife has blocked me from every social media platform, phone, etc., and she cannot be emails to talk and gain closure. To tell her how much I hurt her and pushed her away. That my inability and coldness. I was truly sorry for everything. And that if she wanted to move on and date him, I would give them my blessings. Closure for our last 3 years together to mean something instead of the way it ended in complete ghosting. I have King to her, but he has never reached out since. I'm absolutely gutted and devastated. I've not only lost my wife, whom I had at one point considered proposing to and with whom I have shared more than half my lifetime and half my memories. Losing my wife of 3 years was bad. I see them living large, going on vacations and having the time of their lives on social media, and meanwhile, I'm my family, and soon my mother as well. I get nightmares of them laughing and smiling at each other while having sex. It haunts me. And I get sleepless nights over it. I get random pangs of pain in my chest, and it keeps me wide awake. This is real. I just don't understand how he could destroy my relationship so badly. This is my first ever relationship. July 30th, it felt like just another bump in the road. I never imagined it would lead to this level of betrayal. 2 days living together. It's like our entire relationship meant nothing to her. She moved on so quickly and easily while It's hard to fathom how someone you love and trust can turn around and hurt you so deeply. My mom's illness only and that I might lose her soon is unbearable. I wanted my friend to be there for me, to offer some support, but he code just when I need him the most. The fact that he's now with my wife makes it all the more painful. It's a double betray. I'm sorry you feel that way. It's such a dismissive apology, like my feelings don't matter at all. Each time I replay that he's going to lay low for 6-12 months, but what about me? I'm the one left dealing with the fallout, the emotion to listen to others about cutting him off, but how can I not? He's the reason I'm in this mess in the first place. He's so words. If he truly cared, he wouldn't have done this to me. It's all just empty rhetoric designed to absolve himself of. It's like she's disappeared off the face of the earth, leaving me stranded with no closure. I've sent her countless emails asking for a final conversation, but there's been no response. I even reached out to her father, hoping he could help bridge the gap. But he's gone the dark, to keep me in this state of perpetual anguish. The silence is deafening and cruel, amplifying my sense of wife and best friend. It's the betrayal and the unanswered questions that gnaw at me day and night. I see them on while I'm stuck in this never-ending nightmare. The images of them together, happy and carefree, are like daggers to Linus. And all the while my mom's condition worsens, adding another layer of sorrow to my already heavy burden. It feels in sight. I'm haunted by the thought of them together. The bed I helped put together, once a symbol of our future, is of them being intimate, and it tears me apart. Sleepless nights have become my new normal, with random pangs. Find out this was all a bad dream, but reality is cruel and unyielding. I don't understand how he could do this to one I loved. His betrayal has shattered my world, leaving me to pick up the pieces alone. This was my first ever relationship and shattered by his actions. The woman I wanted to propose to start a family with, is now with the man I called my on my worst enemy. Every memory we created is now tainted. Every dream we shared is now a painful reminder. Heart, trying to navigate a future that now feels uncertain and bleak.